This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
This is Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. And there is a lot happening in Albany these days. Jason, another year, another late state budget. Make it 5 in a row now. Got to ask you the question we ask every year this time. Why can't lawmakers get it together when it comes to meeting their obligations as elected representatives? And what can the constituents do about it other than voting them out of office?
Yeah, it's significant because this is the 5th year where we're going to have another late state budget. We have not yet had an on-time budget under Governor Kathy Hochul. And I think that indicates why we're having the problems that we are, is the governor insists on putting policy in the budget. And when you put policy in the fiscal plan and legislators don't want to handle it that way, that creates some problems. It creates delays. And frankly, it avoids the transparency I think most New Yorkers want to see on issues that get rammed into the state's fiscal plan when there should be open debate on these issues.
Yeah, I know, Michael, you were relieved last week when House Bill 300, the so-called Fairness Act, did not come up for a vote. The leadership tabled the measure. Why did the Democrats decide at the last minute to do this?
Well, very simply put, Bob, in the end, they didn't have the votes to pass it. And its prime sponsor, Democrat Malcolm Kenyatta of Philadelphia, said so in a news report. So rather than seeing it go down to defeat, they set it aside, possibly to bring it up yet another day. This has been a proposal that we at PA Family have been fighting now for 30 years. It comes up every session. And what brings us the victory against this dangerous LGBT agenda bill is the voice of concerned citizens like those listening to the broadcast today, using their voice and telling legislators to vote no. We logged more than 4,000 such contacts in this year's battle against HB 300 alone. That's what made the difference. So my message to your listeners is keep it up. It's working.
Yeah, and I took some of those phone calls, Michael, and it's great to see people get involved because of what you're saying on this program. It makes a huge difference. So we applaud our audience for doing that. I know, Jason, you're pleased. The Supreme Court decision, huge ruling, 8-1 on Charles v. Salazar that strikes down Colorado's ban on so-called gay conversion therapy. I know New York State has a law like this. Talk about the ramifications of this ruling and what it means for New York.
Yeah, this is significant because oftentimes in blue states like New York, legislators will pass things admitting quietly, not on the public record, that they know it is unconstitutional, but the response is to let the courts sort it out, and they hope to just survive the court challenges. Well, this is a great example of how the bill that was passed was likely going to be found unconstitutional, and so where the legislature in New York will not take action to undo this, the Supreme Court is saying, hey, wait a second, we have some problems here with free speech issues. This is an issue that will help people all across the state that are experiencing unwanted same-sex attraction. They can receive the talk therapy that they want. And remember, it's talk therapy. We're talking free speech. And if they want to have help with their unwanted same-sex attraction, they should be able to go to a counselor and get help in that area.
Yeah, we had an attorney on yesterday from ADF, Michael, said this is big because not just counselors, it's pastors, it's Christian school educators. This deals with a whole gamut of things. I know Pennsylvania doesn't have this kind of a ban like New York does, but your reaction to this ruling and what it means to the Commonwealth?
Well, I'll say first of all that we don't have a state law like exists there in New York. We do have state regulations through the state licensing board that license the medical professionals, licensed counselors, that in effect create the same sort of ban. So this is something I'm even talking to our lawyers here at the Independence Law Center to say, okay, we have the Supreme Court ruling. What are we going to do about it now here in Pennsylvania to provide the freedom for the professionals, but also then for the clients that are looking for the help that they really need?
Yeah, some case law for sure here to work off of going forward. Charles v. Salazar. Jason, this was a big story as well this week in New York, sports betting, just how expansive this has become in the Empire State. Now the governor is doing something about it. She's considering a proposal that would crack down on underage sports betting while addressing the growing problem of compulsive gambling. Explain, if you would, this action plan and whether or not you think it will work if implemented.
Well, first of all, let me say that I am thankful and grateful that the governor is seeing a problem with mobile sports betting and with sports gambling. The problem I have with the action that's being taken, though, is that essentially this is another case where government creates the problem and then years later comes back with their idea of solutions and how to fix it. And we've seen this with marijuana, we see it with sports betting, we're likely going to see it with assisted suicide when it's enacted. Government creates the problem and then says, look at us, we're doing good things, we're trying to fix the problem that they created. There are problems with advertising in sports gambling, for example. You cannot watch any of these events without seeing that mobile sports betting. And oftentimes it is geared towards children. And so the governor, who has taken an interest in trying to protect kids, at least in some areas, is taking action in sports gambling, trying to rein it in.
Yeah. Would this be included in the budget, or is this a separate matter that they would take up later?
That remains to be seen. It is likely to be taken up later, but there is something called the big ugly in the budget, and who knows what may make it into the big ugly, that final bill that has a ton of policy whenever they get around to passing the budget.
There was an incident last week in the Pennsylvania House that got a lot of attention. The Democratic speaker tanked a Women's History Month resolution when a House member had the audacity to ask that she clearly define what it means to be a woman. What exactly happened there in Harrisburg, and what does that say about the influence of the transgender agenda?
Well, this resolution was offered by the speaker, and then a representative from Elwood City in western Pennsylvania stood up and offered an amendment to simply put into the resolution the definition of what a woman is. And at that point, there was a moment of silence as the speaker tried to figure out what to do, and they just simply pulled the resolution. Basically, what it boils down to is the Democrats are completely bought, paid for, and owned by the LGBT plus base that forms the core of the Democratic agenda these days. Every single Democrat legislator here in Harrisburg, and I think nationally, understands that if they simply utter words or phrases like simply providing a definition of what a woman is, that'll result in them getting opposition, possible primary opponents, and either a cutoff of campaign donations for them or a big dose of money for their primary opponents.
Wow. Jason, you are suing. This was big news as well. So many major stories we're covering this week. You're suing the New York State Attorney General, the top prosecutor in the Empire State, for libel. Please explain to our audience the case you are making against Letitia James.
Yeah, this goes back to the lawfare that was brought against myself personally and the organization I represented, New York Families. But essentially, the Attorney General lied in press releases that went out across the state accusing me of things I did not do. We then had my attorney reach out to the Attorney General demanding retraction of that story. She has refused to do so. And as a result, we're going to court to try to clear my name in this matter.
What court is this going to, and how confident you can win the case?
Well, it's going to start out before the Monroe County Court, and then we will see where it goes from there. The Attorney General may try to toss it on a technicality. We expect that will be something that she will seek to do, and then we hope that judges will have the courage to stand up to the Attorney General and do the right thing in this matter.
All right, Michael, and then finally, I was shocked by this poll by the Family Research Council. Just 43% of regular churchgoers today call themselves pro-life. 2 years ago, that figure was 63%. So it's been about a 20-point drop in just 2 years. How do you explain that?
Well, it's really troubling. The study's own researchers explain it primarily as cultural confusion flooding into the church, what they would call a serious discipleship crisis. David Clausen from the FRC's Center for Biblical Worldview said the numbers show just how much cultural confusion has seeped into the church. This young generation, the report notes, is catechized daily by social media, entertainment, and academia, often far more effectively than by the local church. And this is notable in the polling. It says churches aren't teaching on it enough. Only about half of the respondents said their church addresses abortion even once a year in sermons. 26% of Protestants, 38% in mainline churches say their churches never talk about it. Yet 60% 60% of churchgoers say they want more biblical teaching on abortion and the value of life. That's something we endeavor to do with our Church Ambassador Network as we reach out to churches and pastors to talk about these key issues of the day.
Yeah. So note to pastors, be unapologetically pro-life. And we know both of you are, and we love having you on for that reason. Folks have questions about any of the topics discussed on the program today. Jason, you have a wonderful website. Where can they go and learn more?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
Stay informed on all the issues in Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Family Institute doing a great work in Harrisburg. Michael, where can folks find you?
PAFamily.org.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.